Hello everyone, I am Chibi Joe, and we are reading a book I wrote in high school titled Nightmare. We are reading today, Chapter 6. I woke up slowly in the infirmary. I looked around trying to remember how I got here. Images flashed through my head, Kale hiding her face, a bolt of lightning, vampires on the ground, and finally, 2 knives coming at me. I looked at my arms. IVs were stuck in them from all angles. I looked at my hands. The symbol on the left, and another hand in the right one. Kale was the owner of the hand. She was sitting down in a chair, leaning on my bed. I tried to move, but the pain was unbearable. I looked at the clock. 3 a.m. So I've been knocked out for quite some time. A person walked near my bed. "Ah, Mr. Tekube," he whispered, trying not to wake up Kale. "You're up, I see. That was some fight you were in, wasn't it?" I stayed silent. Kale stirred a little bit, but didn't show any signs of getting up. The man's eyes were electric blue, as if he had power over lightning. "You see, I've come up with a conclusion," I stared at him, waiting intently for the rest. "You're way too dangerous to keep alive." He pulled out a knife. "You nearly killed my prized pupil." He had me right where he wanted me. He lifted up the knife and was about to slam it into me if it wasn't for one single detail. I swung my forearm forward. The monitors went flying towards him. One hit his face with electricity going into his face, electrocuting him until he died screaming in anguish. Kale's eyes snapped open. "Morning, sleepyhead," I said, plucking out the IVs and putting some bandages. "Have a nice nap?" She yawned. Great big, she looked like she hadn't slept in ages. "Sarah, how are you feeling? And what's burning?" "I'm doing good, and don't worry, that's just the doc." "What did you do?" "He had a shocking experience." "Sarah, he was helping you by killing me?" She stopped and looked at me questioningly. "What?" "He pulled out a knife and was planning to kill me." "Sarah, I'm sorry I killed the nice doc," I said jokingly. "You're a dork. There's a dead body in the room with you two." "Hey, I'm your dork." Now, fuck off. She laughed. We kissed, then I stumbled up. "How's the vampire doing?" I said, not really caring about them. I just wanted to start a conversation. "2 have severe concussions. One of the 2 has claw marks and a strained neck." She smiled on that one. "The other has burn marks across his chest." "What about the one I took out?" "He's in the ER recovering from a broken neck, back, 3 ribs, and a jaw." I looked at her in disbelief. "Wow," was all I said. "Sarah, you could have been killed," she said. "I know." I just stood there. "Sarah, why do you fight?" "You asked this once," I said. "Answer it again, truthfully." Ouch, I thought. "I don't know, but what I do know is that when I was fighting those guys, an anger that wasn't mine started entering. I had to end it fast." She leaned against me, her head against my chest, listening to my heartbeat. "Sarah, I don't want you to fight outside of the club." "But what if," I started to say. "What if what?" "What if someone is trying to hurt you? Sarah, you promised." "I know what I promised," I said loudly. Kale was taken aback from this reaction. "Look, I promised I wouldn't die for you. Which I would anyways, if need be, but I didn't say that. But I also promised myself I would protect what needs protecting." She just looked at me. I heard something moving. I whipped around. The doctor was still alive. His face scarred, but only scarred, not burnt at all. He held out his hand and shot a fireball out of it. I took a computer and threw it at the fireball. The 2 collided and exploded in sparks and smoke. "Kale, get out of here, now!" The doc took out an electric dagger. I transformed into a werewolf. "I said get out of here!" Kale stayed rooted to her spot. "Kale!" The doctor ran towards her. I stepped in between the blade and her. I felt the cold steel touch my skin, but didn't go through. He electrocuted me. He started laughing, but he stopped when he looked at me. I looked at him. The pain was unbearable. At least it should have been. But I was in protective mode. He launched back his arm and stabbed the dagger into my chest. My vision started turning red. My body was transforming, but not into my normal form of werewolf, but into a more barbaric version. The look on the doctor's face was full of fear in seconds. I howled and grabbed the doctor and threw him at the wall. He went through the wall after I threw him as hard as I could. He got up and threw his hands forward. A pillar of rock launched from the ground a couple of yards ahead of me. He launched it diagonally so then it would hit me in the stomach, but I grabbed it and crushed it. I went towards him with blinding speed. I jumped through the hole that was made when he went through the wall. He started shooting lightning bolts and fireballs at me, but he never hurt me, just made me angrier, which made me stronger. Let's see how you like it, I growled. I didn't even sound like me. I blacked out, but for some reason I knew. I was still moving, killing, destroying. I was pure darkness. A scream popped out of nowhere. I looked into the screen. I saw the doctor trying to get away, but a claw kept on dragging him back and attacking him some more. I heard Kale's voice to stop attacking the doctor, but for some reason, the beast, which had control of my body, wouldn't stop. I heard footsteps behind me. It was another version of me. He was a bit tougher looking than the real me, and his eyes were permanently red. So, Sarah, do you like what you see? Do you love the power that's granted to you? The power could be used to protect Kale, he said, his voice sounding just like me. I whipped around. Who are you? As if I didn't already know. Well, I'm you. Well, not the you, the better you, the stronger you. The answer is no. I hate this power. But what's the point of having power if it's not used for the right reasons, I said. This power, Sarah, is for you to kill your prey. Kill my prey? I'm not an animal. You're right. You're not. But I am. And since I am you, technically, you are an animal. I ran at him to punch him, but before I hit him, he disappeared and reappeared all around me. They were all laughing. The original one walked out in front of me. Sarah, you must beat us all if you even have a hope of... He never finished that sentence. I ran up and punched him in the face. I whipped around and hit another one in the stomach, but then I jumped off his back to take out two others with a windmill kick. One ran up and punched me in the face. I whipped around to hit him, but a whole army of me was right behind him. If you want to know what it looked like, watch the Matrix movies, because that's what it reminded me of. So many things I want to say. I ran forward, kneed the one clone in the stomach, and launched his head back, killing him instantly. All of them ran at me and started winning against me. When I would attack one, another one would attack me. Eventually, I'd collapse out of pure exhaustion. I heard Kale's voice, and I looked at the screen. The monster was walking towards Kale. I screamed, "No!" A shockwave obliterated all the clones. I saw a bright light, and finally I felt my body turning back to normal in the real world. I stared at Kale. I collapsed on my knees. Kale got on one knee. I laid my face into her shoulder and cried, saying sorry as many times as I possibly can. Sarah, don't worry about me. We got up and left. I do have one question. What is it? Should I still go to the fighting club? Yes. I stared at her in disbelief. But what if I turned into that thing again? What if I try to hurt you? You won't. I know it. How? I almost did, except for I stopped. Except for what? My animal side is getting stronger, Kale. That was only a fraction on what it... What? That was only a fraction of what he can really do. You still won't hurt me. Your human side won't allow it. We were back in the room. Someone already made the bed for Kale, and she had all of her belongings in the dresser. Look, Kale. She ran and put her arms around me and kissed me. We just stood there, not moving away from each other. Sarah, you need to forget what you've done and start getting ready for the club. I went to my room and took a shower. I felt the place where the dagger went into me. There was a cut there, but no blood. You're going to fail, I heard a voice say. It was my other half. After my shower, I looked into a mirror. The me in the mirror, the man in the mirror, was smiling, but the real me wasn't. You're going to fail Kale. A searing headache happened with laughing going on. A vision popped in my head. Goss with a smashed head, Randall with rocks falling on him, eventually me going towards an army, and then an explosion. I went back to reality. I walked outside the bathroom. Kale apparently came in and took my clothes out, a sleeveless red shirt and some army cargo pants. I put on my pants. I walked towards her door and knocked. No answer. I pounded on the door and put my ear to the door. Of movement. I kicked open the door. Because screw that door! So that was much longer of a chapter than chapter 5. I don't think it was a terrible chapter. I actually kind of liked it. There is some aspects of it. I had this like love for Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, which, by the way, if you want to listen to the whole entire story of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, Sav actually has read the entire story, so I recommend you guys listening to it. Anyways, so I think the issue is, again, and I said this, I believe it was in chapter 3, that I put too much in such a short amount of time. I feel like if I was to draw things out, scenes like this would work. I think the introduction to the other half, to the more animalistic, feral half, was okay, but I could have done better. Also, I love my Matrix. Like, pointing out, like, because The Matrix was one of my favorite movies in high school. It still is one of my favorite movies. Like, the original Matrix movie is amazing. But yeah, I was thinking of Matrix 3 whenever he's fighting all of the, was it Agent Smith? Was that his name? So, anyways, that's all I have for you guys today. Have an awesome day, and a good night.